Hi everyone, my name is Adam Botterill from Waterstone. I've got Bede, Henderson, our Wellington manager, with us today, and we thought we'd do a quick video about creditors' compromises or Part 14 compromises. These have been coming up more often for us, and they kind of fell out of favour for a few years, but seem to be making a little bit of a resurgence. So we're just going to talk through the basics of what a Part 14 or creditors compromise is, how it can be used, and also the benefits that it can bring for a company that's in trouble. So a Part 14 or creditors compromise is essentially a deal with the company's creditors. So the company can essentially propose a structure that compromises the debts, which essentially means settles them on new and more favourable terms to the company. Often it can be used to avoid liquidation applications or formal insolvency before the company gets to that stage. They need major creditor support, so they need the creditor support of about 75%, which can be quite hard to get, and because of this, we often find that the earlier that people look at this, the higher the chances of getting a deal approved. That's because it relies on the goodwill of the creditors, and if the company has run down that goodwill, it's very unlikely that they're going to get agreement with a creditor vote that cuts down their debts by some measure. And we've actually done a successful compromise recently. So Bede, why don't you talk us through the mechanics of how it works and how we managed to get that over the line?
Yeah, sure. It is all about relationship, as Adam's mentioned. So you want to make sure that everyone's on side, get in early. As part of your delivery of the offer to everyone, it's important to show that you understand what has happened, so that you're clearly in control of what's going on in your company. This is best suited for businesses who have maybe they've encountered a stumbling block, but they're otherwise a good, strong business, and they need a chance from creditors to get through this and out to the other side, and then everything will be good. The other side of motivations for creditors is quite often it's a better deal than what they would receive in liquidation. So we're seeing compromises even at like 15 cents on the dollar level, and they're being passed. So receiving something is always better than nothing, right? Essentially, you send out notice to your creditors. You need to give them at least 5 working days. We tend to give people about 10 working days to get their things in order and make their decision. There's a meeting of the creditors in person often. Voting can also be done via postal ballot as well. At the meeting, it's the final opportunity to present to all the creditors the final pitch to convince them to vote affirmatively. At Waterstone, we chair those meetings, so we support our companies who are going through this process, and we put our face to the whole thing, and I think that helps to get it across the board. Do you have anything further to add, Adam?
I think I'll just pick up on just the role that we would play as a compromise manager, and essentially helping the company draft the various paperwork and notices that are required to call the meeting. So there are some sort of technical elements that you mentioned, Bede, around calling a meeting of creditors. It has to be done in accordance with the Companies Act, and so there are some specific requirements that have to be met for that to actually happen. So at Waterstone, we essentially will help to draft the proposal paperwork and also make sure the meeting is held in accordance with the Act, and to kind of just guide the company through that process, because it can be quite tricky for someone that's not used to that type of process to complete it. So yeah, that's something that we definitely make sure we're kind of keeping an eye on, helping to kind of shepherd the the deal through. And also just pick up on the importance that we think about holding meetings in person for a compromise, because essentially the company's asking for a favour. It's asking the creditors give us time to pay or accept less than your full debt, and also maybe give us time to pay that. So we understand the companies that are proposing these are asking for something from the creditors. They're asking for a favour or an indulgence to allow them to get a compromise passed. And so a meeting in person, just practically, you can actually meet the creditors that maybe have not made up their mind. You can talk to them about what the options are and kind of can answer questions that they might have. So I think the meeting itself is quite key to actually, winning people over to maybe to the side of voting in favour, because it means they actually get a chance to ask their questions and feel like that the company, yes, does have a future, and that they're going to get, if the deal is passed, the company is going to follow through on the payments that it's agreed to. So that's the two things I'd like to add. I mean, anything tricky that came up? I know the recent one that we worked on, Bede. Was there anything tricky or unexpected that you had to deal with in terms of getting it all kind of put together?
Well, I guess there's a lot of admin behind the scenes as people are sending in their votes if they want to do it via postal ballot. So there's that administration behind the scenes. At the actual meeting of creditors, you can get a couple creditors there who will ask these sort of pointed questions, or they'll try and negotiate on the spot and get a better deal. So I guess you go there prepared to face the hard questions, and I think it can be an intimidating thing for a business owner to confront, but by standing in front of all of your creditors and discussing this deal on hand, I think you gain a lot of respect, because you're essentially fronting up and you're showing that you're open about what's going on and you're happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in that recent meeting that we held, that definitely happened. Some of the creditors did have some some difficult questions, and some quite there were some people that weren't happy, obviously, with what was being proposed. But on the day, 90% plus voted in favour, because they saw that this deal was better than the alternative of a liquidation scenario, which may have been quite soon if the deal didn't get approved. And so that definitely we saw that in that meeting, where people were quite had some good questions, and I think welcoming questions is quite important. Instead of being defensive about why do we have to answer these questions, being open and transparent, I think always wins people over more than just kind of pushing back. So that was something that we really kind of had to be mindful of, was trying to win people over and be transparent. But in terms of the process, if you're a company that is in kind of early stages of kind of financial difficulty, a compromise might be a way forward. It might be something where a deal can be structured that the creditors will approve. At Waterstone, we can help to kind of manage that process and to put it together, and help essentially draft the paperwork and get that I guess underway. So if you do have kind of early stages of those issues cropping up, then feel free to reach out to myself or Bede and have a talk through what a compromise may look like for your company and the kinds of time frames. How long did it take us, Bede, to get from kind of initial engagement to the compromise being passed, roughly?
Yeah, I guess it's on a case-by-case basis, really. So it could take a month to get that all through, and it could also, the time could be a lot shorter as well if information is provided to us in a timely manner. and there aren't outstanding queries that hang around for a while. So it can be a pretty instantaneous.
Yeah, I think from memory it was about 3 or 4 weeks. Quite a quick engagement in the 3 to 4 weeks till the meeting. So it's something that can happen relatively quickly. So if you are a company that has any of those kind of financial cash flow issues, feel free to reach out to myself or to Bede and have a chat. We're happy to walk through what those options might look like for you, and hopefully that will be of assistance. All right. Thanks, Bede.
Thanks, Adam.